Hello, hi. Welcome to the Lullaby Trust live for Safer Sleep Week. I hope a few people are going to join us this lunchtime to talk about sleep products. Hi everyone. I can see people popping up. This is great. My name's Anna. I'm a researcher, a mum, and I chair the Lullaby Trust Scientific Committee. Hello. Hi everyone. Oh, hi. This is awesome. We're going to be talking about products for Safer Sleep Week this lunchtime. I'm with you for the next 30 minutes. It's great that so many people have joined the call. We are hopefully going to have a really good conversation about all things product-based for safe infant sleep. What should we be buying? What should we be leaving on the shelf? Okay, let's get started with your questions. So the first question we've got here is, what baby sleep products would you suggest a first-time parent gets? This is a great question. Getting it right from the start, it can be really helpful actually. So whether you're pregnant or expecting your first baby or have had your first baby, things that are helpful for infant sleep. It's good to have a main sleep space for your baby. So a cot or a Moses basket, somewhere for the baby to sleep safely. It's really good to have another one as well, a portable one, something that you can put when you're having naps in the day. So a Moses basket or a carry cot, very good for that. You can put it next to the sofa, or you can have it in the kitchen with you while you're getting on with your day. It's really important in those sleep spaces that baby has a nice, firm, flat, waterproof mattress to sleep on. Then they're going to need something to wear while they sleep, so a sleeping bag and a fitted sheet on that mattress with the baby with a sleeping bag in it, or you can use a blanket as long as you tuck it in at the bottom, that's fine too. Also, a room thermometer can be really helpful just to check what temperature the room is, especially if you're not sure in the middle of the night. So those are the main things. It's really a good idea to keep it simple, just keep it safe. You don't need a lot of fancy products. So those are the main things. Great, so there's lots more people joining the call, so I'm going to introduce myself again. I'm Anna Pease, I'm a researcher, I'm a mum, and I also help the Lullaby Trust out as chair of their scientific committee. As a researcher, I've been researching sudden infant death syndrome for about 14 years now, and we help the Lullaby Trust with the evidence base for their recommendations. So hopefully everything you're going to hear today comes from a really scientific base of evidence that's been around for a long time. Great. Next question here is, what baby products should I leave on the shelf? Okay, so let's get into it. There are certain things, even though they're for sale, they're not safe for babies to sleep in, especially when they're very young. So the main message from the Lullaby Trust and from decades of research is that babies should sleep, when they're put down for sleep, flat on their backs. And the reason for that is it protects their airways. So when you have products like bouncers or hammocks or things that keep the baby in a more curled up position, they're not really safe for sleep. So we recommend leaving those on the shelf, like baby hammocks or bouncy chairs or things that keep baby in a curled up position for sleep. The other thing that we know from decades of research is that having a giant pillow or soft things in a baby's sleep space, again, especially when they're very young, can be a risk to them, basically. Again, having lovely, soft, squishy things sounds like a good idea, but can pose a risk to babies in that environment. So things like pods, nests, cot bumpers, those sorts of things, pillows, big heavy bedding, duvets, that sort of stuff, that's all best left on the shelf as well. All right, so please do put your questions in the chat on the call, and we will get to them as much as possible. We've got another question come in. How do I know if a sleep bag is a safer option for my baby? Okay, so before sleep bags were a thing, the advice was to put your baby at the bottom of their sleep space, the bottom of their cot, so that their feet would be, they're called feet to foot. They would have their feet at the bottom of the cot and they couldn't then wriggle under the blankets or having their faces covered by those blankets. So sleep bags came along as a really great option for babies when they're fitted well, because they are all contained in that little sleep bag, and it means they can't kick the covers off, so they maintain their temperature a little bit better as well. So as long as the sleeping bag is the right size for your baby, and it's also not too heavy a tog, and also that it's not one of these weighted sleep bags or anything like that, that's absolutely fine. So having a look at the sleep bag as well. The other thing you can do is check that it meets the safety standards, and you can look at the tag of any of your products and it should have a BSEN number on there, and that means it will meet some of the other safety standards to do with the quality of the make and is it fire resistant, that sort of stuff. So that's that one. The next question here is, what about having a teddy or a comforter in the cot? Should I remove that too? Yeah, you should. It really depends on the age of the baby, age and stage of the baby. All our advice applies to babies up to the age of 1. But as babies grow through their developmental stages, they change. I've just seen another question coming in about rolling, so we'll get into that in a minute. Yeah, but anything that can cover a baby's face or pose a risk to their airway in that sleep space, best to remove it. And to be honest, when they're very little, they don't know that that stuff's there. And you'll get there when they're older and they're moving around and they're over 1 and they're standing up in the cot and yelling and all that kind of fun stuff. You can have teddy in there. So that's absolutely fine. It's not forever. It is just for that early period where we just need to be careful. Okay, next one is, what's the evidence with regards to swaddling? Great question. This comes up a lot. Swaddling is a very traditional practice in some cultures of wrapping a baby up tightly in some fabric. It can be done in a range of different settings for different reasons. Some people do it because babies sleep a bit better like that. Some people's do it because it gets their hands out of the way if they're getting in the way of breastfeeding or feeding. And some people do it just because that's what they do and that's a traditional thing that is practiced. So it's a varied kind of practice. We know that if you are swaddling a baby, the advice is to always make sure that baby sleeps on their back. So that's even, it's always important, but it's even more important if you're swaddling a baby, making sure that they are on their back and thinking about how they can regulate their temperature if they're wrapped up in a little bit of fabric is always a good idea. So making sure that they're not too hot, they're not wrapped in too many layers and not having extra blankets over the swaddling fabric as well. And then thinking about as your baby gets older and more mobile, if they're at risk of starting to wiggle around in that swaddling fabric, that's probably the time, usually around 3 or 4 months, to think about not using the swaddle anymore, just because of the risk of them getting into an unsafe position or of that swaddling fabric getting caught up in their face and neck. So just thinking about if you're going to swaddle, make sure that they are just under the shoulders and not too tight around the hips, and that they're always definitely on their back, not too hot, and think about when is the right time to stop swaddling. Okay, so the next question here is, my 8-month-old keeps rolling on his side and front in the night and doesn't want to be rolled back. How can they be safe? Great question. So the advice for infant sleep position is to always place your baby down for sleep on their backs and for the first year. However, at some point during that year, it's very likely that your baby will learn how to move and roll. When the baby can, by themselves, when they're awake, if they can roll from their front to their back and from their back to their front, you can leave them to find their own sleep position in the cot, but still put them down on their back. But if they immediately roll over onto their front and you know that they have that skill, they can roll both ways, they can be left to find their own sleep position. And this is often a big relief for parents. I think, oh goodness, that's great. That's absolutely fine. It really is just, can be a tricky time if they have learned how to roll from back to front, but you haven't seen them do it from front to back regularly yet, then that can be a tricky period where you're not sure. And we do think it's probably safer to, when you can, roll them back onto their back. But sounds like this 8-month-old's got some good skills and rolling around. And if that's the case, they're rolling both ways, then yes, continue to put them down for sleep on their back, but you can let them find their own position once that's happened. Hope that's answered that question. Let me know. Great. Next question here is swaddling better than a sleep sack? I would say no. I would say a well-fitted sleeping bag is probably a better option than swaddling, but maybe depending on the age of the baby. The sleep bags come in a range of different sizes, and they all have different togs, which is like the weight of the blanket, how warm is the bag. So make sure that you've got the right one for your baby in terms of size and the right one in terms of the weather as well. So if it's very cold, you can have 2.5 togs. If it's quite getting hot, you want a 1 tog, or even think about not using the sleeping bag or the blanket when we have those very rare heat waves in the summer. You can get rid of the sleeping bag. You don't probably need it then. But in terms of swaddling versus sleep bags, I would go for a sleep bag in terms of safety, absolutely. But that's not to say that no one should ever swaddle. Like I said, there's ways to do swaddling when they're very young that keep it as safe as possible. Okay, can babies sleep with dummies? Great question. Okay, so the evidence around dummies and son-infant death syndrome is mixed. There were some studies a while ago that had this association, so this relationship between using a dummy and a reduced incidence of SIDS. So it was thought, oh, are dummies protective for SIDS? And they might be, but we haven't quite got enough evidence yet to say definitively yes or no. But the answer to your question is yes, you can give your baby to sleep with a dummy. Some good advice around dummies is to think about the relationship with breastfeeding and dummy use. And so if your baby is being breastfed and you're still getting into the routine of breastfeeding, I think check with your breastfeeding advisor or your breastfeeding group, but some of them might say wait till breastfeeding is established and they're used to it, and then you can introduce a dummy. The other thing about dummies is about using it consistently. So if you do start using a dummy, the reduced risk of SIDS seems to be when it's used for every sleep. So that's just something else to consider. Okay. So another question has come into the chat. People are recommending pods and nests to me, and some say they're safe for overnight sleep, which is really confusing. Is it true? Okay, this is really confusing. I'm a mum too, and I've got 2 kids, and I remember, very well getting bombarded with all of the clever marketing that gets put out around these products, saying that they will make your baby sleep longer and they'll, reduce night waking or be comfortable and soothing and all of these words. And yes, some products do claim that they are safe for overnight sleep. As someone who does the research in this area and is regularly keeping on top of all the studies that are coming out around son-infant death syndrome risks to infants and safer sleep messaging, I can categorically say that there is no one particular product out there that can make that claim in that way, because I know for a fact they haven't done the right kind of research on it that would be able to say absolutely categorically this one is safe or not safe or any of that. There's a lot of clever marketing out there. There are a lot of claims out there. I would be very wary of them. And here at the Lullaby Trust, that's our job, to look at everything that's coming out and to make sure that our messages are evidence-based. So generally speaking, and we can't count on any specific products or name them or anything like that, but generally speaking, having a big pillow in your baby's sleep space is not a good idea. We know those pods and nests are very popular, and they can be used while babies are awake, and they can be used for playing, or they can help. Some babies like them to have a little bit of tummy time on there. That can be a useful way of getting your use out of your pod and your nest. But for sleep, babies really need to be flat on their back in a clear space, and clear includes not having big pods and nests in there as well. I know that's hard work, but sometimes that's just the way it is, unfortunately. Okay, we've got more questions coming in. My 6-week-old refuses to sleep in his next to me. Any recommendations, please? Oh, it sounds like you have a Velcro baby that wants to be on you. I know how hard that is. I had one of those myself. So how do we help this mom? It's really tricky. I think a lot of times babies make associations with sleep just like we do in our lives. We get used to things being done a certain way. And so a little bit of perseverance can often go a long way. If you really want your 6-week-old to sleep in the next to you, making sure that you keep trying and waiting until they're very, very asleep. So I don't know if you can wait until you hear their breathing change and they kind of go into their deep sleep and they're very quiet, and you can try and pop them in there then. That's another way of helping them get used to that sleeping space. If this means, I'm just extrapolating from the question a bit here, but if this means that the 6-week-old is in the bed with you, do make sure that the safe asleep principles apply, in particular that they are flat on their back with a clear face and clear space around them if a baby's in the bed with you, and that's for everyone. And then also it's really important that we repeat those messages about times when bed sharing is particularly risky and should definitely be avoided. And that's when there's any smoking present, either in pregnancy or afterwards, any alcohol present, because it reduces your ability to be responsive. And if their baby was born low birth weight or premature as well, we would recommend making sure that you try and get them into their own sleep space and not share a bed with them. Okay, so another question's come in. How can I tell a friend their sleeping space is unsafe? Oh, you poor thing. This is difficult, isn't it? You've got someone there that you can see and there's a bit of risk there. So what you can do is try to keep your relationship going, like keep communication open with this person, because you're a really good person for them to have in their life, actually, if you know about safe sleep principles and you can help them with that. What we often try and recommend is a way of asking them about their sleep space that's non-judgmental. So, oh, how did you come to set it up like that? What's going on for sleep for you? And check what's going on, because unsafe sleep doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's usually because they're struggling with something, either it's sleep deprivation or they maybe don't have enough room or they've been told somebody else to do it this way. That kind of thing can be hard for parents. So just inquiring gently about the reasons for that sleep space might just open up the conversation a little bit. And you don't have to be the one to tell them. You can point them to the Lullaby Trust website and say, look, there's really good information here. Or you can point them to their health professional if they're still under the care of a midwife or a health visitor, somebody like that they can go through this with and talk to about that sleep space. Parents do like it when we're honest about things and say, well, the advice is this way because this is the reason for it, and here's where you can get more information. I don't know if that helps you at all. That's what I would do if it was my friend. I'd just want to find out what was going on for them really kindly, really gently, and let them know where they can go and get information about safer sleep if that's what they want to do. Great. So the next question, are more expensive baby sleep products better? I don't know what better means here. Safer? No, you need very little for safe sleep. So making sure, we have amazing networks in the UK of baby banks, the Baby Bank Network, where you can get pre-loved items for cheap. We also have lots of charity shops and places and online marketplaces and things that you can get things that are cheap or low cost that have been used before that are perfectly fine to use again. So spending a lot of money on baby sleep products is generally not a good idea. And also, they don't last very long. This is really literally for the only first few months of a baby's life that they're going to be used. So spending an awful lot of money can feel sometimes you get quality with price, but in this situation, I don't think you do. I think keep it simple, keep it safe. Remember that just because something is on the shelves doesn't mean that it is actually safe for sleep at all. Okay, and this is a similar question. If a product is from a well-known retailer or brand, can I trust it? I wish the answer was yes. Unfortunately, the case is at the minute that we still have to use our judgment when it comes to looking at these things. So if a product really promotes your baby being able to sleep flat on their back with nothing soft in their environment, clear face and clear space around them, if that product is helping you do that, then that's great. That's helpful. But if a product is holding a baby in a different position, if it's a sleep positioner, if it's a big pod or a nest, if it's a cot bumper, if it's soft furnishings or pillows or duvets that go in a cot, anything like that, it doesn't matter what the name is on the label, it's not going to be safe for a baby to sleep. Sometimes these things can be used in older babies, like much older. They can be useful for different for age groups, but for young babies under 12 months old, they're really not, it doesn't matter what name is on that tag. We really have to think for ourselves about what we're, the environment that we're setting up for our babies. Okay, next one is, this is related. How do I know if a secondhand baby sleep product is safe to use? Really great question. Now, I've just said that's really good to get secondhand baby products, and it is. However, I think there's some sensible advice around that, in particular, making sure that you can get a hold of any manufacturer's guidance or instructions, or if they still sell it, can you go on the website and get the manual, whatever it is, just to check for yourself that you're using it correctly and that it's got all the bits that it needs to come with it. And an example of that is, Moses baskets, do they come with a stand? Has it got the same mattress? Do you need to buy a new mattress for that one? We would recommend, if you don't know where that mattress has been, probably get a new one. If it's your own product that you're then reusing for your baby and you know exactly where it's not been very long and it's been kept in a waterproof, clean, safe environment, secondhand is fine. But making sure that you think about, in secondhand product use, think about getting the manufacturer's guidance and that it's got all the bits and that you have a practice with it. Get to know it, learn how to use it, just check that it is fully functional and working. You don't want to be putting up a buggy while holding a baby for the first time and not really know how to do it. So have a practice without the baby there. Okay, great. If you want to go to the Lullaby Trust product guide and product advice on their website as well, they have all of this written down, lovely pictures and everything else to help you make those decisions and to think about things like getting the instructions from secondhand baby products as well. So please do go ahead and look at those. Next question. This is an interesting one. Do dummies interfere with jaw development? I'm not sure that I know the answer to this. I think the answer is no. I'm not sure what you mean by jaw development either, because babies' jaws, they develop. I'm not sure how to answer that. We don't know if dummies definitely reduce the risk of SIDS. The evidence on that is a little bit mixed. And I've said that if you do use a dummy, introduce it if you're breastfeeding, introduce it after breastfeeding is established. And if you do use it, there's some evidence that using it consistently is the way to go. With jaw development, I don't know the answer to that. I can write it down and find out for you. If you wanted to send a direct message, we could probably find that out, but I don't think we have an answer to that. Okay, next question. Is it still recommended to have a new mattress with each baby? All right, so I touched on that a little bit before. And of course, mattress manufacturers love this. I think there was some evidence from quite an old paper now where when the mattress came from outside the home that had been on like the third or more baby, it had an association of an increased risk of sudden infant death syndrome. So there was very sensible advice at the time to buy a new mattress for every baby. This was about 30 years ago this was happening. So studies subsequently are a little bit less clear about this. So we've stuck with going with, if you don't know the history of the mattress, if it's from, somebody that you don't know, it's come from outside the home, you don't know how many babies have slept on it, you don't know how leaky those children were, or you don't know if it's had a waterproof cover or it's been in a loft, with mold on it or anything like that, we would say, get rid of it. It's not worth it. Buy a new one. Certainly baby banks and people that put together bundles for babies, they very sensibly always have a brand new mattress policy for that as well. Like I said before, if it's your own product, if it's your own cot or Moses basket that you've had for your previous children and you know that it's been stored perfectly well in the mattress and the waterproof cover has been on it and it's not been anywhere near any mold or dust or anything like that, then it's fine. You can go ahead and use that secondhand mattress for your second or subsequent child. So that's the advice there. As a baby bank, we try to find the most firm Moses mattresses. Are there any we should avoid? We can't really name specific products. Looking for a firm flat mattress is a really good idea. And I know that in Moses baskets, they are particularly thin. Now, if you think about the needs of the baby to be flat on their back is because it's so that they don't sink in. So sinking in can be a risk to their breathing, but also a risk to their getting too hot. So because Moses mattresses are very thin, they're very unlikely to sink in and pose that kind of risk to babies. So I hope that answers that question there. What you're looking for is that kind of firm flat, but the risk is not sinking down too much when you put a baby on there. So hopefully that works. What should my baby wear to sleep in hot weather? This is a good question. Yes, and every so often we get these hot heat waves in the UK, don't we? I love them. I should have been born in a hot country. I absolutely thrive in that kind of weather. However, it's not so good when you've got a baby that's trying to sleep and is too hot. It can disrupt their sleep, which can be very tricky as well. And also completely you have to rethink what we're going to put them in. Essentially, the room of the temperature, we aim for between 16 and 20. Now, in a heat wave, sometimes that's just not possible. You can do what you can to try and cool the room down. Things like keeping the blinds closed during the day, but the windows open, and then opening them up, or having a fan that's not pointed at the baby. That's just to cool down the ambient room temperature around them. So you can try that. But is that what they wear is really depending on the temperature. If it's very, very hot, you feel free to just have them in their nappy or in a very thin sheet or even a thin cotton vest. And in the cot that way. That's absolutely fine. You don't have to always have the baby covered if it's very, very hot. The way to check the baby's temperature is checking their chest with your hand or in the back there to see if it's sticky, clammy and hot. They're probably sweating. They're probably a bit too hot. Take layers off. Similarly, if it feels a bit cool and you're worried they're a bit cold, you can add an extra layer of clothing. Not necessarily a blanket, but an extra layer of clothing is a good idea. To keep them the right temperature. Babies are better at sorting out their own temperature when their skin is free to the air. So even in very, very hot weather, if they are just wearing a nappy and they're on their back, it helps with temperature regulation being on your back, and their face is clear, they lose a lot of heat through their face and their chest being out open to the air. So even if it's very, very hot and over 20 degrees and you've done everything you can't get the room temperature down, having them just in a nappy, having their skin open to the air is going to be a lot safer. 5 minutes left. Great. How do I dress my baby for bed sharing? Great question. Bed sharing happens, we know this. It's really important that we talk about it and that we do that in a sensible way. So when you're bed sharing, it's really important to think about temperature as well, and making sure that your mattress as well, the baby's not sinking down too much into that mattress as well, because that's going to change the temperature of the baby. So when you're thinking about what should they be wearing, it's much better for them to have their own bedding and not share your bedding, and certainly not share your pillow. And if you can, get rid of it altogether. Making sure that if they have, depending on the temperature, they are in their normal sleep wear with a sleeping bag. Sleeping bags can be useful in those sorts of situations, because in an adult bed it's very difficult to tuck blankets underneath the baby, and you're not going to sleep down at the bottom of your bed, are you? So a sleeping bag is a great choice in bed sharing, but making sure in that bed sharing situation that they're always on their back, they've always got a clear space around their head and face, and that you've thought about how that's going to stay that way for the whole of that sleep while they're in the bed with you. And thinking about, as they get older and get more mobile, what are the risks then? Making sure they can't fall or get trapped or wedged anywhere as well. So thinking about that too. But in terms of how do I dress my baby for bed sharing, sleeping bags are a great choice for them, making sure they have their own separate bedding from you. Next question. What's the recommended time babies can stay in a car seat? Okay, let's clear this up. Car seats are not recommended for long sleeps because of this curled up position that you can get into in a car seat. So that's when the chin can go to the baby's chest. You can try it now, put your chin on your chest. Babies breathe through their noses, by the way. It's quite hard to breathe through your nose when you've got your chin to your chest. So that's why car seats in that curled up position for a long time can pose a little bit of a risk. So we've talked before about having a kind of 30 minutes limit on car journeys when babies are very young. The important thing is about observing the baby in the car seat and noticing if they get into an unsafe position, if their chin is going to their chest, and moving them out of it. That's why we also recommend having someone sit in the back with your baby if they're very young, or having a mirror where you can keep an eye on them, and making sure that if you're taking them out of the car in the car seat and they're asleep, that when you get to your destination, that you do take the baby out of the car seat. Don't leave them in the car seat for that sleep, because they're at a different angle when the car seat's out of the car, making sure that they come out of the car seat and can be put down somewhere flat, or have a cuddle with you while you're awake. Also a good option. Okay, we're going to start wrapping up now. Really sorry if we didn't get to everybody's questions. Do direct message us if your question is unanswered. There's lots going on for Safer Sleep Week. I'm really glad we've been able to talk about products today. Keep an eye on the posts there for Safer Sleep Week. This has been joyful. Thank you very much. I hope that you all get a good night's sleep tonight, and I will see you again another time. Thank you very much. Bye.